I'm Mark from Asian Funk Comics. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are joined by a very special guest. He is a world-renowned comic book artist and writer, Paolo Rivera. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm even a writer now too.
That's right. Yeah, I actually was like, you know what? I'm gonna put that in. Hey, it counts.
Yeah,
and we'll definitely.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. And once again, I just want to say I'm super honored to have you here. I'm a huge fan of your work, and I can't wait to kind of just pick your brain about some of your comic book covers, your vision story.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get to it.
We were talking earlier about how like some of your work from like over a decade ago just kind of sometimes comes back in popularity and just surges. Do you think Mythos is like one of those things that people always bring up to you and say like, I remember reading this, and is this like anthology like one of your more memorable pieces that fans keep bringing up?
Yeah. In fact, I wish we could do a reissue of it. I'd love to see them do a soft cover with added back matter, any kind of extras and stuff. Because on the first one, the hardcover, I had a lot more material that I would have loved to share, but it was too much for the page count.
Oh, really?
So I'd love it if they could do more. Because I always love sharing the process, and I think we only had they gave me one page where I could show some of the sculptures in the back. But yeah, as far as stuff that I've done, I've never put this much work into anything else I've ever done. It was just in terms of thought and man hours.
Yeah. And it shows
hours.
Yeah, I mean, I will say your work is one of the few where I will look at it and I'm like, that's incredible. And I'll come back to it later and be like, I did not notice that one thing, and I've done that several times.
Yeah, I like, I don't read actually a ton of comics, but what I do is I reread a lot of comics. And I always find the experience, it just adds something new each time. So when I'm making a comic, I like to, I don't know, just make sure there's a little meat on the bone, and that it'll offer something upon second or third reading.
If Marvel came to you and said, we're going to do a Mythos 2, which set of characters would you like to kind of showcase an origin for? Because
well, I mean, originally the plan was to be longer, but I just took too long. The last one was Captain America, but we had planned on doing an Iron Man and a Doctor Strange, and I mean, I had wanted to do a lot more beyond that, but I couldn't.
Yeah,
I just took too long. I'm just too slow of a painter. I don't think people quite realize, obviously Alex Ross is great, but the amount of work that he is able to put out, as someone who also paints, is just mind-blowing. Like, everyone should be just in awe, not just of the artwork itself, but just the fact that he gets it done.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it. I've calculated it out before. When I was much younger, I actually tried to figure it out, and then I ended up asking him years later. I was like, were you doing a painted page every 2.5 to 3 days? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. Which wow. I can't even imagine at this point. I'm lucky if I can hit that if I'm doing ink and color, and even that is tough for me.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you basically have to dedicate 99% of your time, right? You
can't do anything else, and you can't sleep very much. So yeah. I mean, that's the main reason I haven't done anything like this since then. But it's not because I don't want to. I still love painted comics, and in fact, I loved. I still haven't even looked through the whole anthology, but the thing that I did the vision story for, I didn't see the whole series until they sent me the collection, and the collection is just amazing. It's just nice because you don't see painted comics every day because they're hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think traditionally painted comics, right? You see a lot of digital painted, which they look amazing too, but there's just something different about traditional work.
I had planned on doing traditional for the Vision story, and I ended up running out of time, so I did it digitally.
Yeah, no, I mean, did you do these Mythos back to back? Like, did you start with one and you just did them back to back all the way through?
Yes and no. I was doing other projects in between, like covers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I started on Mythos X-Men in the December of 2004, and I basically did nothing else for the next 10 months. I got faster with each issue.
Yeah.
The fastest was probably Spider-Man, actually.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, but Spider-Man, like even in painted form, he's kind of a cartoon. So he's just easier to draw for me. Like, people complain about the webs, and like my dad complains about the webs, but I don't mind them at all, just because I know what they're supposed to look like, and there's no question in my mind. Whereas everything else, every other character, I'm always second guessing myself, like, should I do this or this, and if I know where something goes, I can just sit down and do it for 2 hours, and it just doesn't really register. I like doing it. So, for some reason it was the fastest. I think I did it in 3.5 months. For example, like Hulk took 6-ish. Ghost Rider took maybe 4 or 5. Cap took 6, because Cap had the most like research involved, just because it was a period piece. So I really like, I was the fastest at painting by that point, because I had kind of finally figured out my process, but it was just a very reference intensive issue.
Yeah. That's interesting that you mentioned that Spider-Man was the fastest, because I mean, it makes sense. Like, he, has any facial features you need to deal with. He can do most of the emoting with his eyes, which are basically just like shapes and 2 colors. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, he's just 2 colors, like,
yeah,
and no faces or whatever. The slowest pages are always going to be, Peter sitting down with Aunt-Man
with like 3 other people. Yeah.
It really is. It's just how it is. And I like doing those pages as well. But when you're doing that budget crunch, and you're trying to figure out where to put your time, like, you have to account for that.
Yeah. No, that's I read these and I was like, okay, I'm a fan. And I reread them all the time, and I'm always like, oh, I did not even notice that one thing. And I'll show you more pieces, and I'll kind of point out things I was like, I really like this one detail. But I just want to say Mythos is like one of my favorite series of books from you. So
well, thank you. I'm glad they've started releasing them as part of like other collections, since they're just single issues. They make a nice little extra bit in the back.
But yeah, so you've probably seen some of these. I want to talk about like sort of how I was introduced to your work. I was actually on a podcast, and I think one of the writers of Shirtless Bear Fighter, they were talking about how they commissioned you to do a variant cover, like kind of like this pulpy vibe, and they were talking specifically about how like they had never seen anyone render a man's like ab section so realistically. And I was like,
it's been done. I mean, people have been painting abs since they could paint.
Right. But I think the way he described it, he was so blown away. And I was like, I gotta go look this up. And when I saw it, I was like, that's a pretty good midsection. And then I was like, okay, I'm curious what other things that this artist has worked on. And it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, you've been, you had so much work that I had seen, but I just didn't know it was you. And so can we talk about the Spider-Man in the middle, like him falling off the theater marquee? Because that's, I think, one of the best Spider-Man renditions like I've ever. It's just so funny, Can you just talk about like the concept for that?
Well, I actually just redid this. We're turning it into a limited edition print. So I actually was just working on this again, because when I did it, I had meant to put more lights on the bottom. The circular lights.
Yeah.
there should be one in between each one, and I just literally didn't have enough time, which, as you'll see, that becomes a recurring theme with me. But I can't remember. So originally I was actually going to do the interior of the book as well. It was a story written by Dan Slott, and so I had the script and it had actually done layouts for like 2 pages, like the first 2 pages, and the book was all about Peter spending time with Betty Brant, going to see movies together and just having fun. And so this was a story about kind of their relationship, how it revolved around movies, and how the same kind of thing with Spider-Man always messed that up. And my basic approach is just like, okay, I hit my head against the wall, like movies, marquee, Spider-Man, how can I incorporate, because I'd never done that before. Like I really liked the way Marcos Martin was he was allowed to do the title himself, because we were both working under Steve Wacker, editor at the time. And I loved seeing Marcos play with that. And so I wanted to do one that did that. And then as soon as I started going down that path, I was like, okay, what if some of these are falling off? And then I'm literally sitting there with my toy and like the letters, trying to figure out, like, can I make this work? And then once I did make it work, I did a quick mock-up and sent it to Steve, and like, am I allowed to do this? Because it doesn't say Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he just said, let's go with it. And so, full credit to him for even allowing this to pass, because I don't think every editor would think that was a good idea. But, Spider-Man, thankfully, is iconic enough that they'll, if you see him on the cover, you know what it's about.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I was curious about that. I was like, I wonder if yeah, they allow that, because you're right. Normally there's like some giant title, because that's just how it is with the covers. And I was like, wow, he got away with not having the full title in there somehow.
I did. I feel that's a good way to explain it, because I did feel like I got away with something. And, seeing, actually working not alongside Marcos, but at the same time as Marcos, and seeing him have a lot more fun than I was having was kind of a little inspirational, because it let me know that I could kind of, I don't know, stretch out a little bit and try things. And also that Steve Wacker was willing to let us, do all those things.
Yeah, I think if there's something that I appreciate about your style and your approach to just, your art, is that you try to do things that you haven't seen or haven't been done, and probably haven't been done since. So I think that's something I really appreciate about your work. Okay, so I want to talk about some of these covers. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions about these. These were some of the covers where I was like, I stared at them for hours and would find something new every time. And I hated that, because I would look at him like, God, I found another thing. And so like, okay, for example, the cover to the right with the Sentinels, it took me forever to realize that there was like a glow coming from Cyclops's visor.
Oh yeah, that's the whole reason for that painting.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do, because
you wanted a reflection in the snow. That's what you were.
Yeah, because I wanted to, because everybody draws Cyclops. Put it this way, one of the best Cyclops covers is by John Cassidy, with Emma Frost going like this, and
the glowing through the fingers,
glowing through her hands.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I want to do that, but I am not allowed to do that because he already did it.
Right.
Because I had actually I had done something like that in this is how I've improved. I didn't know in 2004 what I couldn't do, and now I know what I can't do. So for instance, I tried to do that with Cyclops in Mythos X-Men, and I just didn't give myself, like, there's a certain real estate to the page, and I I didn't give myself enough room to convey the idea that I wanted to, which was he was putting on, Scott was putting on his visor, and the process he has to, undergo to do that involves him like really squeezing his eyes to make sure that it doesn't pop out. But I still wanted that glow in there. And so I tried to do it, but it's like this big on the page.
Yeah.
And like nobody's going to see it. They might infer it, but it's not going to look cool.
Right.
And nowadays, like I finally know that, and I wouldn't even attempt it without doing like a separate panel to show people.
Yeah. I mean, that would have to be like a whole splash page, right? Like to, because you want to see, his whole upper body, putting it on in the hands. Yeah. That makes.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of my attempt to do something. It's like, it's glowing, but you don't need to see it. That kind of
thing. It's like it subconsciously registers that because usually that could be anyone, right? That could be any X-Men, because Cyclops, because he has the red
with
beam.
Those undies.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
Only a few have the undies by themselves.
Yeah. But normally, with Cyclops, it's the iconic red line, right? Like that's the giveaway.
Exactly.
In a quick glance, like that's Cyclops. But here, there's nothing except for the glow in the snow. And I was just like, damn it, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave the only red light source, direct source, being the Sentinel's eye. So I didn't want to take away from that, but I still, wanted to indicate, Cyclops got his butt kicked, and Wolverine is gonna reluctantly save his ass.
Yeah. It's kind of nice how you can kind of convey like he's like get up, hurry up, because we gotta.
Yeah,
exactly. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean Wolverine, he's not being nice to him, but he's also not gonna let him die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is like, it's like iconic Wolverine, right? And I think just one more thing on this cover, because it's great. I just really like how you see his adamantium skeleton. That's like, I wish I'd done,
because I'd actually want to do more stuff like that, because after seeing Frank Quietly basically do that in New X-Men back in 2003-ish. I'd always just wanted to see him taken down to the bone, because he just did that so perfectly. And so it's not an homage to that, but it's definitely coming from that tradition, I guess I should say.
Yeah. I agree, but it's it has your own spin to it, and it's a classic. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just one more question about the one in the middle. How did you decide which versions of Wolverine you wanted at the card table? Because there's obviously more than just 5. So how did you decide which ones were going to make it?
I just picked my favorites, basically.
Okay.
That's kind of the nice thing about Marvel. Like you have an editor and you obviously work with them, but they give you a lot of leeway. At least, I've been lucky enough to have editors that kind of let you do what you want. As long as you communicate and don't surprise them too much, they're pretty. They let me kind of do what I want. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the original that I based it off with. Dogs playing poker.
Yeah.
And I tried. I think I did as many as were in that painting, but I can't remember now exactly. That's one of those paintings that like everybody remembers, but nobody stares at that much, because there's actually there's 2 versions of it, at least, by the same.
By the same artist.
Yeah. He did 2 different versions at least, and then there's lots of parody versions as well. So I that's actually when I realized that fact, when I was doing research for this cover, because it's something that like it exists in the collective consciousness, but nobody knows the details.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's it's like, it's not as well known as the Mona Lisa, but it's like visually, or it's like it's a classic painting. Yeah. I just really like how you threw in Weapon X in there with his helmet on. Like, I think it's just hilarious. Like, I think that's just like the funniest thing. Like, he's the only, like, they've got masks on and stuff, but he's like the only one who's still wearing like headgear. I think it's just like funny.
And he probably smells too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just looks disgusting. Yeah, and I think that was like really great because normally you've seen Weapon X without his helmet on, but I just like how you left it on there. So I think that was really great. Okay, I just want to ask also, like, I think not ask but tell you, I think some of your Daredevil covers are just, again, one of the most creative ones I've ever seen. Like the one in the middle with the braille on Doctor Doom's mask. How did you even what made you even think about that? Because that's just,
if I ever have any good ideas, it's always in the shower, and it's always like, there's no light bulb, but I'm just like, yes, that's it. But as Mark Waid likes to say, it's like that does happen, but not without putting in the grunt work beforehand. So you have to bang your head against the wall for like half a day, thinking this is never going to work. What am I going to do?
Yeah, right.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And then then you take that shower and you relax, and all of a sudden it comes together. And I can't remember. I think I was just just drawing Dr. Doom's face, and I saw the little dots, and I'm like, yes,
yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And once you have that idea, then it's just a question of kind of making it work, because the second part isn't always that easy, but in this case it was fairly straightforward.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's funny because you look at it and like, it's not a complex cover, but like the concept is so great. Like, you're just like, duh, of course you would find bolts on a mask like that, and like it would be okay.
But yeah, I like this one because it's the one that, like, it takes people a second. Like, usually if I do something like clever, it's kind of in your face, like, as soon as you look at it. And this one, it really isn't until you stare at his fingers that it really comes together. And then I've had several people tell me that then they look it up.
Yeah. Does it say Doom? It says Doom on it, right?
I didn't know. Yeah, it says Doom, and I didn't know Braille, so I had to look it up.
But, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I was just like, I was like, I wonder if that's really, if he really put like an actual word in there, because it could have been just like, it could have been gibberish. It could have been, and it would have
easily could have. But that's the one thing. Like, I mean, that's why Daredevil was a good project for me, just because it forced me to learn a little bit more about people who don't have the gifts that most other people have. So it's I learned a lot just on the whole series because of that. And I give a lot of credit to Mark Waid, because he's the one that just set us all on that path, from Steve Wacker to I mean, eventually Chris Somney took over and really went with it. But Marcos Martin, we were all talking together and just really thinking about how he perceives the world. And and I think it came through, because we had a respect for, I learned things like about how they were using the iPhone, which was a fairly new thing in 2011. Because most people, they're like, how do they use an iPhone? And it turns out it was a huge deal for the community, because they finally had something that worked better than anything else. Obviously they use it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever drew it, but I think Chris Somney did. I can't remember, but I researched it, just how they hold it. Obviously they're not looking at it, but they're holding from the sides and using 3 fingers on each side. And it's got haptic feedback and all that kind of and this was all new stuff back then. So
yeah.
It was really interesting to learn.
That's really fascinating. I can tell there was obviously research done for this, because like, again, that could have just been gibberish, but the fact that it actually spells out something is just like, yeah.
That was the easiest research.
Yeah. Right. Did that? Yeah. I'm sure that came towards the end. You're like, all right.
That's just, how do I? Got it.
Right. And then just with the nervous system, I don't even want to know how long that took you to do, because that just like looks insane.
I did that. I can't remember. Well, I mean that series was all about blood, and unfortunately, that's also when I left. But I still ended up doing the covers for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was one of those things where I think I didn't even send a layout at first. I just was talking to Wacker, and I think I just like came up with the idea right there on the phone, and he was like, "That's not what I was expecting, but let's see it." And then he went with it.
Yeah, yeah. Because like I can't even imagine like how you would conceptualize like, okay, I'm gonna have the nervous system be like the shape of the body, and you think like that can't look good, it can't look like Daredevil, right? But somehow it does, and you're just like, damn it.
Yeah, well, my main thing was I can't draw his balls. Oh,
that's hilarious.
So
the one note, right? The one note.
Well, I knew that, I didn't want to be the guy who put that on a cover.
That's amazing.
So I just conveniently, I'm sure over. Daredevil has what is needed down there, but I went ahead and just left that out.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying is this is not anatomically correct then. This is inaccurate.
It is not. I figured since I can do his eyes like that and his horns, I think we're taking enough liberties that people won't call me out on it for taking some stuff out.
Hilarious. I'm never gonna look at this cover the same way.
I know. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. I know it makes total sense. Your run on Spider-Man, obviously, it's one of your most famous set of work. I just think your Chameleon cover is just like one of the coolest I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks.
Like the idea that every
just sold, I think.
Yeah. It sold to me.
Oh, you bought that? Thank you.
Yes, I sat on it for a while and I was like, I don't know, and it wasn't a question of whether I wanted it or not. It was just like if I had the budget.
That's hilarious. I don't always know who buys.
Yes,
the artwork. So
yes,
thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I wanted it for a long time. I just needed to save up for a while. But yeah, it's just like I have to get at least one cover from you. Like just one. And so that was the one, and I just like I really love the each section is a different character. It checked all the boxes in like a character cover I would want, and then like there's not a lot of Chameleon fans out there, and I'm glad, because I'm pretty sure if there were more, this would have been snatched up a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, can you just talk quickly about like what how you came up with that concept of him behind the bars and phase shifting into some other characters?
Again, it was probably in the shower. Like I don't know. It'd be interesting. Sometimes it's fun to go back and see what didn't make the cut. And I because I don't remember anything else that I did from that particular issue. But as soon as you do Chameleon, the basic idea is like how.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you represent him turning into other people? And there's a few basic ways that you can't go wrong. But in this one, it was a jailbreak. So I was like, okay, I need a good frame. And like, there's the door. That's perfect. And then after that point, it's just like, who do I want to draw?
Yeah. That I was kind of curious. I was like, oh man, and it's always fun, right? Because you got to like figure out who's that and who's that, and no, just really, I love it. It's one of my favorite covers.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who.
Oh, let me go back.
Who I did in the. I'm trying to remember who I did in the second from the right bottom.
Is that like a War Machine, or it looks like a metal suit, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and check that out, because or maybe it's like Iron Patriot. Yeah. You might be right.
Yeah, it looks like an Iron Man type suit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And also, so to the left of that panel, for the longest time, I was like, I can't believe he put Jarvis, the butler, in this. And I was like, that guy, that's no. I mean, I know it's Chameleon suit, but I was like, that, right? It is Chameleon suit, right?
Well, I think at the time I was thinking it would be Coulson, but
Oh shit.
I can't remember. I can't remember for sure because it's tough. Like that would have been around 2013 and he was definitely becoming more of a character at that time.
Interesting. Okay.
But I'd have to go back and check for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. I never would have thought that because I know you have like, you have like Maria Hill on the far left, right? Like,
yeah,
that's another like a shield agent. So yeah. Wow. Okay. Coulson. Never would have thought of that.
I could be wrong, but I think that's who I was thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. And okay, I got to mention, I really love the Western vibe you were going here with just like, it's just like so cool. You know
what I really regret about that middle cover is I needed to do a New York tumbleweed and I didn't put it in. I hadn't thought.
Damn it.
I just didn't cross my mind until after it had been published. I was like, oh, it would have been perfect. A little, I Heart New York plastic bag.
Oh my God. Oh man, don't say stuff like that because now you'll have to do. You should.
I know.
You need to do an homage of your own cover, but do everything you wanted to do in this one.
I could do a book just of that stuff that I thought about after the fact.
Yeah. That's man, yeah, that would have been cool. But I mean, with or without the tumbleweed, I think the message comes across. It's like, it's a quick draw. Yeah. It's like something I never would have thought that Spider-Man could be. I just like him reloading his web shooter like a pistol. Like, come on, he's killing me.
That one was fun. That's also my dad's very first inking work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it when you two team up for a piece, which I think you both did on the Chameleon cover. I think he did the
he did all the Avenging Spider-Mans. He did both of these. I only did the one on the left there. Mm-hmm. I think that could have been one of my first inked works, actually, now that I think about it.
The one with Spider-Man.
I didn't start the inked work until 2008. So that issue, I think, would have been my first.
Really? Okay.
I believe so, because that's when I made the switch. When I talked to Wacker, he was my editor. He inherited me from Tom Brevoort on Mythos, and then after Mythos ended, we both knew that I needed to do something else because the painting thing it wasn't working. And actually, he saw a commission that I had done, and he was like, "Just do this style," And I'm like, well, I had fun doing that. Yeah, let's try it. And I ended up being, one of the best career switches I've ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you just get to do more faster, right? Like that's
just... yeah. And and I actually got better. The problem with painting is it takes so long, but you're literally just going over the same bad drawing. So you don't. I got to be, such a better draftsman just in that 1 month I spent drawing Spider-Man than in the previous 4 years of doing painted work. Obviously I could draw and I could paint, but I just got so much better and more accurate and faster just doing that one issue.
That's fascinating. Man,
so that's my one piece of advice to all the aspiring comic book painters out there. Don't paint comics.
Just don't do it.
If you must, draw it first.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's good at it.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have listened to that advice, but
yeah, you'd have been like, yeah, whatever.
If you're not going to listen to it, you should still draw the entire comic first and then paint it.
Interesting. Okay. Noted. Okay. I just want to let you know your first. Is this your first writing credit? Like, is the Vision storyline
only?
Okay. Well, I hope it's not your last because I was like, okay, when I heard that you were writing a story, I was like, that's going to be cool. And then when I saw that it was going to be about Vision, I was like, huh? Like of any character you could have picked, I was like, Vision.
I don't know what. I've always liked him, and I liked him before I even knew anything about him. You know, my first introduction to him was from How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. It was, you know, just him being drawn by John Buscema on a page showing how to make stuff look cool. And I was like, you did it. That looks cool. I had no idea anything about the character. Eventually I learned, and he's just always been one of my favorites. I just think he looks awesome.
Yeah. I think you basically made me a fan of the character, because like, again, I was like, you know, like Vision's cool, but like he wasn't like for me, right? But I think you were able to retell and explain like these are the things he can do, because I think that's the biggest misconception about this character is no one really knows what he can do. Like, yeah, he can fly and he's strong and he can shoot a beam. That's like, you know, surface level stuff, right?
I liked one comment on Twitter. Somebody was talking about the comic, and they're like, yeah, Vision is the Justice League's or the Avengers equivalent of Martian Manhunter. You don't really need the rest of the team because he can do everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, it's nice to have a team.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like you don't really see him showcase all of his powers at the same time. In this story, he totally does. And you're like, he can do it all. I want to point out probably my favorite panel. It's the one where he phases into a person to save him. And I was just like, oh my God. Like,
that was the key. Like that was the one idea I had in the shower.
Man, okay. All right. It's the showering. I got it.
When I told my editor, you know, Tom Brevoort and Alex Ross, they both, I explained in detail what was going to happen, and they both said, that's not how his power works. But then I went into even more detail. I was like, no, he's like creating, you know, he can control exactly where he's dense and not dense. So he could, in theory, create a shell.
Yes.
And that's when they got it, and they're like, oh, okay, we like that. And then after that, I was, you know, I had free reign.
Yeah. It's just, you know, it was just cool to see him do things. You're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. Like that's something he can do. You just have never seen it done. Right.
And it was difficult to convey. Like I knew it was going to be tough just because when I explained it to them, they didn't get it at first. I can't remember exactly what went wrong, but I knew because of that, it was also going to be difficult in the comic.
Correct.
And so that this panel in particular was when I figured it out. I was like, oh, I'll give the guy glasses. And once I figured that out, it drives it home in a way that no amount of explanation would do. Because originally when I sent that layout to Brevoort, the guy did not have glasses. And he was like, this is going to be tough. And I was like, I know, I don't know what I'm going to do. But once I got the glasses, it all worked out.
Yeah. I think that was a really good way to visually show it, right? Like just to be like, he's not in him, he's on him. I just thought it was like, I stared at that. I was like, damn it. Now I like Vision.
Yes.
Damn it.
That's all I wanted. He needs more fans.
He does. Oh, he's got plenty now.
Yeah.
But
okay. The coolest thing was what's his face? Paul Bettany retweeted some of the art, and that was the best.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate compliment, right? Like,
it was just the best thing to wake up to one morning. It was just amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like a dream. And absolutely excited, and that's well deserved, and for all the hard work you've done from your wacky references. So I just want to, you know, when do you decide to do references yourself, and when do you decide to mock things up on the computer or with your action figures? Like, when do you decide to use what? Is it just kind of like on a whim?
Yeah, it's whatever works. You know, my process now. I always pick the best ones.
There's so many. I spent the most time on
back at myself, and I'm like, oh, it was nice to be that young.
Oh, is that
fortunately
so?
Everything's still working, but I'm definitely I got 2 kids now. I'm rocking the dad bod.
Right.
But
you know, you can still anyway, there are characters that you can, you know, pose for. It still works, you know.
Yeah. I still get it done. Yeah, the way my general process is, I just try and take it as far as I can with my head, using limited outside reference.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I get stuck, that's when I go out and do something. And in general, the toys, like, and I've gotten more, the toys are more and more elaborate. Like, this is the latest one I got. Like, it's actual, like, silicone body.
Oh yeah, it's actually a flesh looking person.
Yeah, like, it's squishy. This was great. This helped me on the Fantastic Four painted cover I did last year or the year before, because some of those shadows are they're just tough to do with something with joints.
Yeah.
And but where I was going with this is the figures are best when I need to plan out an interaction, or I need to see how the shadows are going to interact. So it's great for cast shadows, and it's great for making two characters touch or interact. And then the third thing is, if I know the pose but I don't know the point of view. So that actually is why I use them a lot in comics, because I kind of have a good idea of what they need to do, but I haven't figured out the best way to show it yet.
Got it. Okay.
So it's just, it's all about rotating them.
Yeah. And I assume there are obviously poses that you physically cannot do. And so having a figure do that for you.
More. The older I get.
Yes. Yeah. But no, I just want to say, I think, usually artists show their process, and they, they use themselves as a reference all the time. But I think I've never seen anyone use their own body so much in like a lot of their work. And
it happens more than you think. I mean, that's one reason I put it out there, is because when I was in high school and looking at Alex Ross's work, he actually showed in some of the back matter in Marvels and whatnot how he got about getting that reference, because otherwise you kind of take it all for granted. And some artists, they won't show you, like they
right.
They want it to be a secret.
Sure.
And for me, I always think about that kid out there who doesn't know anything and thinks they have to come up with it all out of their head, and that is not how anyone has ever done it in the history of making art.
Yeah.
They've always used reference.
Yep.
They didn't always have photos.
No,
but they sure
had a mirror and you.
Yeah.
I just think it's like really great to see this, because I mean, you are your best reference. And I apologize for showing so many of these. I'm sure you.
No, I'm guilty. I'm the one who put it out there.
Yeah. And I was like, I have to talk about it. Okay, we have a few more minutes. I just want to say, very excited for all your future work, obviously. And is there anything you can say about any of these two titles besides that?
Absolutely
you were excited?
Nothing. What can I say? On X-Men, I only did about 2 weeks worth of work. Okay. And I'm only working half time. I'm only doing 20 hours a week, which, so I can do other stuff on the side. But Spider-Man, I think I've almost been on it for a whole year now.
Wow.
Which is insane for me to think about.
A year. Wow. Okay.
It's only half time, but that's a lot of hours, and it's all stuff that I haven't been able to show yet.
Right.
And some will probably never be shown.
Sure.
It'll be new for me, but it's a fun. I mean, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. And I don't know when it'll come out, but I'm going to be so excited when it finally does.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I had to ask, obviously.
I understand. I want to know too.
That's so crazy. Really great to just kind of hear your thought process. Really excited for your past work and your current work and your future work. I would love to have you back, and definitely once, like Spider-Man Freshman Year and X-Men 97 hit, I would love to have you back and talk about that as well. So
absolutely, it's been a great time. I'm so glad to know that you actually got that cover. I was not expecting that, so that's a nice surprise. But thank you so much for just taking an interest in my artwork, and letting me talk about it. It's fun.